Today we'll be going through the entire Mercury retrograde, the entire timeline of it from June 29th all the way until July 23rd when it stations direct. There's a lot going on in the chart aside from the Mercury retrograde, and I think it's worth exploring. So we'll be also talking about other aspects that are happening during this time. It's going to be a little bit wild. I'm excited for it, but it's going to be interesting, to say the least. So let me pull up the chart. There we go. Okay, so I have this chart set on June 29th. This is the day of the Capricorn Full Moon. On the same day, Mercury turns retrograde. Mars enters Gemini. When Mars enters Gemini, it will start its conjunction with Uranus. When Mars and Uranus come together, we can expect and experience a lot of volatility. Mars is very heated, it's very action-oriented, and it pushes forward, it's forceful, it can be assertive, it can be aggressive. And Uranus is disruptive. Uranus will shake things up from what it was into something completely different in a matter of seconds. Uranus is considered a planet that is meant to bring us enlightenment and meant to propel us into the future, to shake us up out of our old ways or anything that we've been stuck or stagnant in. It creates an environment that completely changes everything around you so that you can explore something new. It's a planet that's associated with evolution. And Uranus is its energy is very unexpected. So whenever Uranus is involved, we can't really predict, I guess, what is coming. It's not like other planets where we can sort of gauge what the energy will bring. Uranus is expect the unexpected. We have no idea because things happen very quick. I'll give you an example. When Uranus transited my first house, I'm a Taurus rising. When Uranus transited my first house, every part of my life changed. From identity to where I live, to my career, to my relationship, to everything, even the country that I live in. So Uranus can change things very quickly and you don't know when it's coming. You kind of just have to roll with the punches and trust that wherever it's pushing you is where you're meant to find your way forward. So because Uranus is a very disruptive planet and because it creates a lot of drastic change, Mars coming into conjunction with it is creating a very volatile energy, very electric. And it's in Gemini. Gemini is all about the mind and communication and how we connect with other people. I think that this is going to create either breakthroughs or breakdowns in technology, in how we communicate, in a lot of the ways we connect with others. And it's going to be interesting because it could be just general Gemini themes, or it can relate more specifically to the house that this sign falls in for you. What's also interesting about this is that Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is now stationing retrograde. So there could be some sort of disruption that comes up around this time that is forcing us to take a step back, to reevaluate, to reassess, to revisit, to reconfigure, to restructure, to replan. That is what Mercury retrograde is going to have in store for us for the next 3 weeks. This duo, Mars and Uranus, are also going to be squaring the lunar nodes, and they're in a trine with Pluto. And a trine with Pluto is supportive. It's nice, it's easeful. It feels like the path of least resistance, but it's still Pluto. And Pluto can destruct something before it elicits transformation. In order for you to step into something new, or in order for you to realize, let's say, your full potential, you need to be stripped away of the things, the masks, the layers that you've placed upon yourself. Pluto is the type of energy that will strip you raw, remove everything from you so that you can meet your true self. Pluto is all about authenticity. When Pluto's involved, it can also include or expose things like manipulation, control, power struggles, issues with money, jealousy, deception. So I wonder if something like that will sort of rise up to the surface. And yes, this isn't a trine, it's supportive. However, the following day, on the 30th, Jupiter will have entered Leo. And although Jupiter in Leo sounds really great, it's going to be opposing Pluto. It'll be opposing Pluto for a little while, and I think it's going to magnify all of these themes. I think also with Pluto in Aquarius, if you are dealing with relationship issues or anything having to do with relationships, I think that there may be a breaking point and there will be, or maybe, an experience of emotional detachment. Why do we emotionally detach? If that's you, if you relate to that, why do we emotionally detach? What are we afraid of facing? Leo is very heart-centered, and with Pluto, whenever Pluto's in a sign, we're looking a little bit more at the shadow aspects of that sign. And the shadow aspect of Aquarius is we're removing our heart out of the scenario and we're sticking with the rationality. So it's a lot of the mental, trying to understand something, trying to make sense of something, trying to, formulate an idea of something, but not connecting our heart to it. And I think there's going to be a push-pull between this throughout the summer as they oppose each other. All right. So Mercury turns retrograde on the 29th, and it will retrograde all the way until July 23rd. And as I mentioned, when it turns retrograde on the 29th, it will be conjunct Jupiter. And Jupiter will be in the last degree of Cancer, this anaretic degree in the last and final moments of Cancer. And whenever a planet is in the anaretic degree, it creates a sense of urgency, like things need to be dealt with and wrapped up. So I believe that this Mercury retrograde is going to have some sort of reevaluation, revisiting of something deeply emotional that we need to face. It can have something to do with the Cancerian themes of home, family, connection, emotional connection, mothers, our upbringing, the conditioning, and the beliefs, perhaps even, that we were raised with. There's going to be some sort of review of that. Okay. And during the full moon, I think that it's going to be really prominent on this day. And then we'll slowly work through it over the weeks to come. All right. So mark your calendars for June 29th. That's going to be a very big day. Mercury stations retrograde. Just to recap, while conjunct Jupiter, Jupiter at the anaretic degree. So it being a very strong point in this sign. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so it's very powerful in this sign. It's very supported to do what it needs to do. And what does Jupiter do? Jupiter expands. It's very fertile. So there is something that is magnified. Think of Jupiter as a magnifying glass. Wherever it is, it's going to magnify that situation. You cannot avoid it. The full moon, I think, is going to bring some sort of realization that we don't know where we're going, or where we're going may not be aligned with this emotional fulfillment that we need in order to build from that place. You need to be in that authentic space in order to build. You need to know who you are in order to create and to grow from that place. Otherwise, your foundation is rocky. And then, of course, this same day is when Mars and Uranus come together, and that is just a whole other signature. We'll explore that a little bit later. We'll talk a little bit more about what sort of things we can perhaps expect. So what's lacking, what's missing, what needs to be reassessed, what needs to be reworked is going to become maybe perhaps a little bit more obvious, although maybe not specifically on this day, because there is a square with Neptune, and Neptune is creating a fog. It's creating a fog around who I am, the direction I'm going, what I want to do with my life, really. But we know that there's a calling, we know that there's a pull, we know that there is something that we're meant to be doing. We just don't know what yet. Or perhaps we're doing something, but we know something needs to change, something needs to shift, but we don't know how. Let's go back to July or June 30th, rather. So June 30th, Jupiter enters Leo. Jupiter entering Leo is going to magnify all of the Leo themes. Leo energy is very bright and sunny, and it expresses this childlike joy. It is very heart-centered, it's authentic, creative, very jovial. I think that the opposition is going to dampen that for a little while until Jupiter can move away from that specific degree point, and then we'll feel a little bit more open and ready to express. I think that we need to deal with whatever shadows are presenting themselves during this opposition in order to feel like the layers that we have on top of our heart are removed and we can finally bear our heart unapologetically without feeling like we are burdening somebody or without feeling that fear. Perhaps there's a fear of what people are going to think of you. Jupiter can rule judgment. And so perhaps there's this idea of how are people going to judge me if I express who I am? So there could be this like repression of this authenticity that should be shining out from you, from that place within you that is your true essence. And it's almost like a dampening effect. Venus is also in Leo, and Venus is very much a planet that is associated with worthiness. What do we find worthy of our time, of our currency, of our energy? And how do we feel in comparison to others or with others? Do we feel appreciated? Do we feel like we are connecting? Is there harmony? Are we deserving of what we have? Are we deserving to be who we are? Perhaps it can be an issue of feeling like our worth needs to be earned. Our presence needs to be proven, that we belong here and that we can express ourselves, even though that's not the case. It could just be this illusion of it. And again, this Mercury retrograde is going to be the backdrop of this entire, all of these transits that are happening. Mercury retrograde. Think about Mercury in Cancer representing that deeper, soulful part of you. Why are you the way that you are now today? What types of beliefs, what types of things did you learn when you were brought up? The conditioning, the perceptions that you have based off of that conditioning, the beliefs that you have, and how they're reflected back to you in this life, in this world, in this current experience. I think work dynamics, family dynamics, and relationship dynamics are going to be very prominent by the end of June, all the way until the beginning of July. Venus will also be in this trine with Saturn, and it will be in a trine with Black Moon Lilith. So it's a wide trine, so I wouldn't say it's a grand fire trine, but it's definitely speaking to both of these planets. And I think it's going to feel a lot like, do I feel appreciated? Do they appreciate me? Do they appreciate what I give and who I am and how I show up? Do they see what I do? Do they see who I am? Now, on top of this opposition, or with this opposition between Pluto and Jupiter, we also have a T-square happening with Chiron. Chiron's at 0 degrees of Taurus, and Chiron is also going to elicit these themes of worthiness. Am I deserving? Am I worthy? Am I appreciated? Do I have everything I need to feel stable and secure within my own skin, within my own body, within my environment? This could also really magnify issues with money. Taurus rules money, Pluto rules money, and Jupiter in Leo could be expanding how we show up and how we receive the response of how we show up. It doesn't necessarily mean money in particular, but with Venus and Leo, I think there's going to be some money themes coming up. Venus does rule money. Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So there could be money issues that come up. something that really is prominent, that rises up to the surface, that you cannot avoid, you can't ignore. It could also bring up something that feels like, why am I trying so hard to receive what I deserve? There's going to be a lot of shadows, I think, that we're going to be working through during the first little bit of July. Then, of course, we have our Mars Uranus conjunction getting closer and closer. Now, I have the nodes as mean nodes, so the true node will be at a different degree, just maybe 1 or 2 degrees off, but I like to use the mean nodes. So here we have an exact T square on the 2nd, and then on the 3rd, we have Uranus and Mars coming into exact conjunction. Within 3 degrees, it is considered an engagement in Hellenistic astrology, and so we make that a focal point of a conjunction. Up to 10 degrees, yes, it's still a conjunction, but in Hellenistic astrology, we look within 3 degrees. So this will be a theme for at least the first week of July. And this can be sudden changes, sudden movement. This is probably going to be the loudest part of the month. July 4th weekend is going to hold something grand. I don't know what it's going to be. It'll probably be a surprise. Let's see what happens. Gemini does rule communication, information, media, transportation, technology, learning, commerce, exchange between people. And Mars really heats things up. It creates a lot of speed. And Uranus is just creating disruption and sudden shifts, sudden changes. Uranus is the planet of quantum leaping, so it will really propel us into a completely different place. Let's see what happens in the first week. But I think that's going to be really interesting. And when it's attached to the lunar nodes, the north node of the moon and the south node of the moon, whenever they're involved, it usually has to do with some sort of karmic shift. The north node is what we're growing into, and the south node is what we're moving away from, what we're growing out of, what we're trying to transform and put less emphasis on. However, the south node is where we default to, and the north node feels like uncharted territory. We've been working with the north node and the south node in these signs, in Pisces and Virgo, for the last year and a half almost. So we're starting to get more familiar with Pisces being, the sign of compassion, and to recognize that we are one. We're not separate, and to recognize that nobody's perfect and it's okay. Pisces is also trusting your intuition and allowing your intuition to pull you and guide you, to be able to have a plan and just surrender and trust how it unfolds, to understand that the path forward is not linear, but it can be a very wavy path. We don't have to have everything figured out for things to unfold beautifully. Whereas the South Node in Virgo is very much associated with this like fixity on having a plan and a routine and making sure everything's perfect. And it is a mutable sign. It's not a fixed sign, but it sort of is really focused mentally and logically on linear time. There is a sense of needing things to be perfect, to be in control of the outcome, to always need to cleanse and clear and fix. Whereas Pisces just says, let it go. It's fine. Everything's okay. Everything will work itself out. I think on a personal level, we'll see a lot of impulsive actions happening within the first week of July. Collectively, let's pay attention to see what comes up in world events. I think it's going to be really interesting. I don't know what's going to happen, but this combination often coincides with, sudden developments and a sudden change in the conversation, especially with it in Gemini. Sudden shift in what the media is putting out. I wouldn't make any permanent decisions during this entire Mercury retrograde. I think that things are going to change very quickly. And I mentioned this in my Capricorn Full Moon video, but I think it's worth mentioning here that the signature of Mars conjunct Uranus usually holds one of not just sudden disruptions, but accidents. It can include explosions, military actions, technological failures, electrical events, protests, surprises, shocks, especially geopolitical shocks. Could be shocks even in how we communicate. Maybe there's a complete breakdown of our cell phone towers. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it's definitely something to pay attention to and to just be aware of not like hide in your home, but just be aware of what's going on around you. So all the while that these two are making a conjunction, again, they are still in trine with Pluto. Pluto's in opposition with Jupiter, and Jupiter is in making this T square with Pluto to Chiron. So they're all sort of communicating in their own way. I guess it's also worth mentioning that Neptune is involved as well, and Neptune creates that feeling of fog and disillusion, like we don't know what's going on. This is very confusing. It also requires us to find that surrender piece, right? Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So we're very much being asked to let go. Let go. Just let things unfold. We cannot change what's happening. Let things unfold the way that they are. And then we can look into working with the energy that we are presented once all of the pieces have fallen where they may. Think of Uranus like a tornado. This is how I like to explain Uranus. Uranus will come in, sweep you up out of your environment, spin you around, disorient you, and plant you somewhere. And then you need to take a look around and figure out, where am I? And how do I build from here? How do I move forward from here? And Neptune is that the fog, right? Like you're being spun around, you're completely disoriented, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what's happening, but you need to trust that wherever you land is where you're meant to be. Pluto is the complete removal of or destruction of whatever it is that you were just experiencing that wasn't authentic to you. The thing with Pluto is you need to be rooted in your true self and your authenticity. If you're not, Pluto will remove you out of that situation, or it will strip you bare so that you can meet your true self, so that you can express your true self, and you can move forward from a place that is a lot more rooted into your essence and your path and your purpose. This is the planet of evolution, the main planet of evolution. The North Node, evolution forward, how we move forward. Uranus, also evolution, but to propel us into that space where we're meant to be. During this time, don't make any permanent decisions based off of these quick, impulsive, temporary changes. Okay, just give it some time. We don't make any major decisions. We try not to, anyways, during a Mercury retrograde, because things will change by the time Mercury turns direct. Right now, we're just evaluating. Think of it as sitting back, getting your popcorn ready, and just watching things unfold and reflecting on how it affects you, how you came to this point in your life, and how you'd like to move forward. We're not taking action, but rather we are just evaluating. Okay, so let's move ahead. We have Venus approaching the South Node in Virgo. Venus is over here, getting into that last degree of Leo, and it enters Virgo on the 9th of July. When it approaches the South Node in Virgo, we'll be dealing with probably a lot of relationship and money shadow aspects of ourselves. Perhaps the control or frugality of money. Relationships will become a lot louder in how we show up. Are we trying to fix the other person? Or are we allowing them to be who they are? I think this is also going to bring up things within ourselves, questioning like, am I overextending myself? Am I having to work really hard to earn love? Am I constantly giving and giving and giving and hoping that the other person's going to notice? These are going to be in a square with Uranus. So that's going to create some shifts within relationships for sure. I think that old beliefs collectively around females or femininity and how they should present and how they should be and how they should act, I think that's going to be probably a theme as Venus approaches the South Node in Virgo, but also while Venus was in a trine with Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith has to do with the female rage, really. It is very much a primal, raw female energy, and the wanting to liberate and to break free from societal expectations and the confinement that society puts on women. That is going to be a Black Moon Lilith theme. And Black Moon Lilith is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a sign for liberation and freedom and truth. It doesn't like to be held down or controlled. It It's very much an exploratory type of sign. So as we navigate forward some more, we'll see that the Sun and Mercury find their way into Cazimi, which is when they approach the same degree, they're within a specific time frame of each other. And whenever Mercury is in or under the beams of the sun, it's given that momentary power of the sun, the vitality, the energy. And so on this day, on the 12th of July, we'll be getting a lot more clarity as to what are we dealing with during this retrograde period. Perhaps we start to have a little bit more clarity of how we move forward. I think that this is going to be a day where we'll have some aha moments and we'll have some emotional clarity as well. And I think it's important to pay attention on this particular day. All right. Meanwhile, Jupiter is approaching a more exact opposition to Pluto. So let's move ahead some more. Pay attention to the 14th when the moon enters Leo. So probably be in the evening on July 14th. Let's actually move it ahead so that you can see that. We'll move it ahead a little bit more than that. There we go. So the moon will approach Jupiter as it enters Leo in the evening. I'm on the east coast of the US, so you can adjust for your time zone as needed, but just pay attention. I mean, it'll be within a conjunction with Leo probably for the whole day. So, or about 24 hours. So pay attention because the moon is going to be with Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be enhancing the emotions of, who we are and how we express. And Pluto is going to be opposite, creating that tension, creating that pressure. And Chiron's going to be there too. So there is going to be moments for healing at the same time. So here we are on the 15th. At the same time, we have Mercury moving away from the sun, and Mercury is going to be making a square. Let's actually move it ahead to the 16th so we have it in engagement. Maybe the 17th. There we go. So Mercury will be in a square with Saturn. This is going to feel a little bit heavier. I think reality is going to set in a little bit louder at this time, and it may feel dampening. It may feel like it kind of brings you down, but it is going to require you to step into a more mature place. And when you do choose to act, you'll have to act from that place of maturity. You'll need to be very clear on your actions forward and have clear reasons why you're taking those actions. Because anytime we are impulsive and anytime we don't think something through, we experience the consequences of those actions. Saturn will show you what results your actions are producing. So if your actions are not coming from a heart-centered place, you'll know it. You'll know it by what you receive in return. I think there may need to be some boundaries set around this time as well. All right, we'll move forward a little bit more as we approach the end of Mercury retrograde. So when Mercury hits the 16th degree, we know it's wrapping it up because that is the final degree of its retrograde. Of course, it's still in the square with Saturn, so it'll be allowed for the entirety of the last bit of the retrograde and as it moves direct. By the 22nd, the Sun will have entered Leo and will begin its conjunction with Jupiter. It will begin its opposition to Pluto and its T-square with Chiron. Meanwhile, Mercury will be stationing direct. So we'll be feeling a lot more of these retrograde themes getting a lot stronger and more prominent as Mercury digs into this degree point for those final few days. I would say maybe about 5 or 6 days. It starts probably around the 20th, even the 19th. It stations direct officially on the 23rd. And the moment it begins to move on from the 16th degree point will be on the 27th. So it'll actually be probably about a week where we feel that prominence, but it'll be the final wrap up of this review period. When the sun meets with Jupiter in the sky, although it is opposing Pluto and squaring Chiron, I think there's going to be a lot more confidence and a lot more expression at this time. I think that we'll be clear on how we want to express or how things have shifted and changed. And I think we'll feel a lot more comfortable in our skin saying what we need to say. And I think this is going to be very healing for us. It may feel like a struggle. We may need to overcome our fears of doing so, but it will be healing for us. And then from here, you can begin your build, right? With Mercury stationing direct, now we're in the last and final phase of a retrograde. We're in the post shadow. So this is where we begin to tie up loose ends and put little pretty bows on our packages, and we figure things out. We begin to implement the plan after this whole period of time of retrospection and trying to understand something, trying to get clear and feel into what it is that we want. Now we can finally implement it. Mercury retrogrades can bring back exes, can bring back past relationships, former lovers, old coworkers, old friends. So pay attention to that, because if those come up, it's not meant to pull you back into the past, but rather there's something maybe to explore, to review, to heal from, to recognize within yourself. And that can very much be a situation that you'll be dealing with during that time. One more thing I didn't mention, because I'll have a separate video on it and I don't want to make this video too lengthy, would be the Cancer new moon. And the Cancer new moon will land on the 13th, I think. Let me see. No, on the 14th. All right. The Cancer new moon will land on the 14th. That's going to be the same day where it'll start with that new moon, and then the moon will move on to conjunct Jupiter and to oppose Pluto and make that T-square with Chiron. So I think that's going to be a really big day. They'll be conjunct Mercury retrograde, and there's going to be a wide square with Saturn. So this will also be an interesting day, because I think we'll have a fresh start or a moment to set an intention, plant a seed of how we'd like to see things unfold within Cancer, within this house. Okay. Now, depending upon what your rising sign is, the way that this Mercury retrograde will unfold, specifically the Mercury retrograde, is going to be different. It can maybe just involve these general themes of Cancer, but if you want a little bit more nuance, I'm going to leave the wheel up on the screen. Find the house that this lands in. If you're an Aries rising, this will land in your 4th house. If you are a Taurus rising, this will be in your 3rd house. Gemini rising, this will land in your 2nd house. Cancer rising, this will land in your 1st house. If you're a Leo rising, this will land in your 12th house. If you're a Virgo rising, this will be in your 11th house. If you are a Libra rising, this will be in your 10th house. If you're a Scorpio rising, this will be in your 9th house. If you are a Sagittarius rising, this will be in your 8th house. If you are a Capricorn rising, this will be in your 7th house. If you're an Aquarius rising, look at the 6th house. And finally, if you are a Pisces rising, this will be in your 5th house. Okay, everyone, that's all I have for you today. This is a long video, but I hope you find it helpful. Please comment, like, share, subscribe to my channel. I am new on YouTube and I'd love to grow in this community. So if you enjoy this and this is something that you resonate with, please give me your support. I appreciate it more than anything. Words cannot even express how much I appreciate you being here. If you'd like to book a reading with me, I have a lot of offerings. I have the Big Three, which is a Sun, Moon, Rising. It's a mini read for anybody who doesn't want to dive too deep into the chart or is very new to astrology and just wants sort of a taste of what their Big Three is. You can book that through my website. If you want a deep dive into your astrology chart, of course I offer that. And then I also offer a few other things, such as a shadow reading, looking at the shadow aspects of your chart and how that shows up in your life, as well as a soul journey, or where you're meant to explore and where your soul is meant to develop in this current lifetime. So if you're interested in that, head to my website. I'll leave the link below in the description box, and I will see you again in the next video. Take care, everyone.